Good evening, everyone. First of all, sorry for the delay because there were some communication issues that I didn't remember today's Dhamma talk actually. So today we are going to talk about how to contemplate on dana, fulfilling dana. What type of contemplation is necessary? In the beginning of the Parami talks, I gave a brief explanation about contemplating each Parami, but today I am going to talk about Dana Parami in detail, how one would contemplate about this Parami. This contemplation is called Pacchaveccana in Pali, Pacchaveccana. So in Pacchaveccana, what we do is we contemplate when we are doing with regard to Dana, for any Parami, we contemplate the benefits of doing it and also the disadvantages of not doing it. So these are the main two aspects. What are the benefits if you practice Dana Parami? What are the disadvantages if we refrain from doing Dana? So we are mainly focusing about Amisa Dana here, not Dhamma Dana and Abhe Dana. They also should have some contemplation. But we'll mainly focus on Amisa Dana, giving certain requisites that we possess. So I'm going to dissect this Pacchaveccana into more detail. Amisa Dana is offering the things, requisites or physical goods that someone possesses. So therefore, there are few obstacles. Now doing Pacchaveccana, we overcome the obstacles of doing Dana. So one of the biggest obstacles of Dana Parami is the high consideration about one's wealth. If we consider our wealth as something that is very important, that without which we cannot live, then it is very difficult to offer that. Then another difficulty, another obstacle for Dana is the attachment towards the wealth. So they seems like the two sides of the same coin, but here we are going to first we will see how the consideration is affecting. If we keep it in a pedestal, we keep someone in a pedestal, we regard the person as of high quality. So if we start to respect the wealth, if we esteem the wealth, if we try to consider wealth as something very important without which we cannot live, then it's very difficult to abandon it. Then we have to consider about the defects of getting attachment to it. So we are focusing, one is external focus, one is internal focus. So we have to consider, we have to change our perception about the wealth, and we have to consider about our attachment towards wealth. Then we have to consider another aspect in Dana, because in Dana we give something to someone, right? Someone else. That actually to be, for act to be Dana, we have to abandon our stuff or the things for the benefit of someone else. So then afterwards the other person will be benefiting out of our donation. That's the main basic element of Dana. But thing is, sometimes, in most of the occasions, we are giving things to people who ask for them, ask for requisites. So it's very natural for someone to get angry with the person who asks for wealth. So if you get angry with the beggar, the one who requests, this is also an obstacle, because when you are angry at someone, when you are angry with someone, it's very difficult to give them something. So it's also mentioned in the books, if you have strong disliking towards someone, one of the best ways to overcome is to give something to that person and also accept something given by that person. When you give something to someone, it's very difficult to do it keeping resentment, keeping anger. At the same time, when you receive something from someone, it's very difficult to keep your grudge. So it's important that when someone asks for something, it's important not to get angry with the person. So we have to change our perception regarding the beggars. We have a common general perception as that we don't like the ones who beg for something, this is an obstacle to fulfill the dana parami. So we have to change the perception regarding the ones who are asking. So we are talking about now few aspects. We have to change the perception regarding the wealth. We have to change the perception regarding our attachment towards wealth, because attachment is considered something important in day-to-day life, especially in lay life. Because one would say without attachment to your family, without attachment to your wealth, you cannot progress. There should be some attachment to achieve something. The liking, desire should be there. So we have to consider, we have to reconsider about it. And also we need to reconsider about the people who are asking for something. Another way to consider is, now this especially is applicable to the ones who are practicing to become a Samma Sambuddha, because he is a person, a Bodhisattva has to keep on giving things, whatever he has. There's no thing that he should not be giving. Anything that is possible to be given has to be given. So, in order to fulfill the paramis, especially to a Bodhisattva, it is very important that the people would approach him asking for things. Especially, for example, if a Bodhisattva needs to offer limbs, body parts, you cannot just go and offer some body parts to someone, right? Majority of the people would not accept that. Yes, animals who are in hunger may accept that, because there was an incident in Sri Lanka once when I was a child. I heard this in news. It became something very, very, very famous in those days, that someone jumped into a cage of a lion, and everyone thought in the beginning that he wanted to commit suicide. While the lion was grabbing him, he just remained still. But later on, we found that the people found that he had written a letter that he wanted to give the biggest donation of his life, and he wanted to offer the entire life to someone who is in hunger, because he felt the lions in the zoo were not very well fed. So he just wanted to give his life flesh to the lions in order to quench their hunger. But somehow the person was rescued by the staff of the zoo. So likewise, sometimes the people may offer to animals, a bodhisattva, but on most of the occasions, someone has to come and ask for the limbs. Only then he will be able to give. So it's important for a bodhisattva to maintain a status that beggars would approach him. So he should consider, how should I be dear to the beggars? That how should the beggars would not feel afraid approaching me? Because when you are going to approaching someone requesting something, you always have a doubt. What would be the outcome? What would be the reaction? Would I get rejected? Would the person scold at me? Would I end up being embarrassed? So always the receiver is the one who requests is in a lower position. So therefore it's important to reconsider about ourselves. How would the receivers perceive us? Am I dear to them? Do they feel comfortable coming and asking? Yes, if I don't have, I would say, very sorry, at the moment I cannot afford you. That's okay. But still, do they feel comfortable asking from me? That's very important. So once we are, if someone is really fulfilling dana parami, the ones who are receiving should feel that it is okay to approach this person and request. If he cannot, he will say directly he cannot. But if he is possible, he would surely afford us what is necessary. So it's another thing that one has to contemplate in dana parami. Then the last aspect that one need to consider is the obstacles to the dana, that is lobha, dosa and moha. So attachment to the wealth is a thing that is to be offered, is an obstacle. Then the anger towards the one who is receiving is obstacle. And the delusion about this entire process of dana. Because, for example, due to our delusion, we get wrong views and we try to cling on certain things, requisites and all, our wealth. So moha also plays a huge role. So how to get rid of lobha, dosa, moha? The contemplation should lead to that level as well. So these are the 5 aspects that we are going to talk today. reconsidering about the wealth, considering about the attachment towards the wealth, disliking towards the beggars, and making oneself to be dear to some the ones who are asking, and also getting rid of the obstacles, the mental defilements that prevent us from making donations. So now we'll move on to how to do the contemplation on these aspects. So considering about the changing the perception about the wealth. Now we have to consider what wealth is. Wealth is something very important to us because of wealth we are able to live. But at the same time, wealth comes with lots of disadvantages. One of the foremost is wealth creates lots of enemies. Why do we need to put gates, lock our doors, need to fix CCTVs? Because we know there are many people in the world, a considerable number of people, who are willing to steal from others. If they got the opportunity, they would happily take something from someone else, snatch something from someone else. So therefore, we subconsciously know that when we have wealth, there are a lot of people who become jealousy of us, and at the same time, who are willing that they may get this wealth. So wealth creates lots of enemies. At the same time, wealth generates lots of attachment, which leads to do unwholesome activities. And at the same time, wealth gives lots of hardship, lots of troubles, because we tend to, because in order to earn the wealth, one has to work so hard, and spending the wealth that one has earned is also some sort of suffering. Yes, we know by spending wealth, we get what we want. At the same time, we know that something has gone from our wallet. So that's why we are cautious how much I'm going to pay for this and this, because there's a subconscious battle going on. When we are going to buy something, we always consider, is it worthy the amount that I'm going to pay? So what is the philosophy behind this? Is spending the wealth, spending the money that we have is a suffering. We don't like it. We want to keep it for ourselves. But just keeping the wealth for ourselves is not going to do anything. It's not going to do anything. Because you cannot eat wealth. You cannot drink it. You cannot sleep on it. You have to buy a bed to sleep comfortably. You have to buy a house to live comfortably. You have to buy food to eat and be healthy. So when you are accomplishing your comforts, getting your comforts, from one side, the wallet is getting empty. So this creates a kind of a dilemma in us. I think ones who are spending, if you think very, very attentively, when you're going to buy something, when you think about your pleasures and all this, it's obvious. So spending the wealth is also a sort of suffering. Working to earn the money is a suffering, but in the end you get the prize, but it's a hard process. In order to get the wages at the end of the month, salary, you have to work the whole month, right? If you take leaves, the salary will be cut accordingly. Then spending is also a suffering. Then in the end, whether we spend or not, finally we have to we get departed from the wealth. It's obvious, either with our death or the destruction of the wealth. So wealth is a thing that creates lots of enemies, and it gives a lot of fear to us. At the same time, it brings lots of hardship, paliboda, in order to earn it, while we are spending it, and also while in the end when we depart from it. And another point is, while we are protecting it, it also gives you lots of mental torture. One is so afraid and to work so hard to protect the wealth, especially guarding it with all the capacity. In order to guard the wealth, you have to spend the wealth again. So this is a vicious cycle. The wealth does not give comfort to the mind. It never gives the ultimate comfort. But if someone asks, can we live without wealth in the Leela? No, you cannot. Obviously, you need wealth. So when we think about the downsides of the wealth, then it would become easier to sacrifice this wealth. The wealth is also a reason for us to have increase our defilements. We can see in the world sometimes people kill each other for wealth. Children kill parents for wealth. Husbands kill wives for wealth. Wives kill husbands for wealth. Kings kill citizens for wealth. Citizens kill kings, rulers for wealth. So this wealth is something that appeals all sort of defilements. Attachment to wealth can lead us to do any sort of evil deed. That's why people kill animals, because it's easy money. It's mainly because we are attached to the wealth. Sometimes some may kill animals because they are attached to the taste. Yes, that's also obvious. But mostly in mass productions, they do it for the wealth. So attachment to wealth can makes us to reduce our humane qualities. We may fall into a level of animals sometime, and we may lose all our good virtues. The best benefit one can get out of this wealth is through donation. You accumulate great good kusala karma. At the same time, you can attain the supreme bliss of nirvana, nibbana, by giving up the wealth. So we'll talk about this aspect, why it is necessary of giving the wealth soon. So at this moment, we have to consider that wealth is something that appeals for the defilements. Right. Then another way to contemplate is, now giving wealth is the best way to take away the wealth, because at the death we are going to abandon our wealth and we are going to be born according to our karma. If we give the wealth, we'll be able to get more benefits in samsara. This statement, the faithful Buddhists would accept this, but sometimes this can lead to some arguments. Because, for example, before giving the wealth, we consider the defects of the wealth. We consider wealth is something that is appealing to lobha, it can create lots of hardship. And sometimes we could say, the best way to take the wealth, that's how Bodhisattva has sometimes contemplated. If you want to take the wealth to a sansara, because you are going to abandon it somehow at the end of this life, if you want to take it to the sansara, you give it, you donate it, because then you are going to get more wealth. But since wealth is something that is harmful according to our contemplation, so by giving wealth, what you are gaining is something harmful. So if you analyze this statement, because sometimes Bodhisattva thinks, none of my parents took this wealth when they die, when they left this world. None of my grandparents took any of the pennies. So how should I make sure that I would take all this wealth? Donate it. That's how the Sumedha, Brahmin Sumedha, donated before he went to the forest in search of the liberation. In the end, he got the first proclamation to be the Gautama Buddha one day. So this shows some kind of a contradiction. So how do we clarify this point? It's very important. So this is, if someone thinks that there is no future life, then obviously donation doesn't make much sense unless you are contributing to the welfare of the society. Because you are living in the society, if you increase the welfare of the society, that is also going to benefit you. Because there is no karma vipaka aspect, so the donation is not that much important as it is for us. But for the Buddhist, they believe in a rebirth. And then another very important aspect is, they believe in certain divine worlds in which the lifespan is extensive, very long, lengthy lifespans. Now, living in a human life, we spend few years with human pleasures, and there is a possibility that one may go into a divine realm with divine pleasures with a very long longevity of life. So then the comparison starts. So should I be experiencing these human pleasures and depart from this one day? Or should I, while I am enjoying this wealth, shouldn't I donate it and get a much greater pleasure which lasts for a long period? So in this comparison, yes, that would be much greater. And in the divine realm, according to our literature, there's no, wealth does not create much hardship. In the human world, you have to earn for it, you have to work hard for it, you have to work hard to earn the wealth. And there's lots of troubles, fights, quarrels due to wealth. But in the divine realms, we don't see that much. No other deity will come and steal from one deity. No deities will fight, quarrel for a mansion, because all of them have their wealth created, got by their past karma. So therefore, divine pleasures, divine wealth is something different from the human wealth. But it is appealing to defilements in terms of when you consider about the jhanas and maggaphala, yes, it's an obstacle, obviously. But so, though we contemplate the defects of the wealth, there is another contemplation made by some wise people that the best way to carry this wealth is by offering. So it means pleasures are important. So in order to have a greater pleasure, we should sacrifice this minor pleasure. It's like in order to live a good life for 40, 50 years, we have to give up some pleasures at our childhood and study hard, work hard. So when one day we'll get into a good occupation and we'll be able to live happily for a longer period. So in order to live a long happiness, to have experienced a long happiness with a good family life, we give up some pleasures in our childhood. So likewise, in order to attain a much greater bliss in the divine realms, humans would abstain or give up or donate the human pleasures that they possess. That's another consideration. And another consideration would be, when you compare with nirvana, nothing is greater than that. So that is the eternal peace. In order to attain this eternal peace, to get rid of the poverty forever, get rid of the thirst for wealth forever, one has to practice the paramis. So offering wealth which is something very dangerous in this regard, by offering it, we'll be able to go to the realm or a place or the state which is free from all dangers. So therefore, donating is considered something good in terms of sansaris aspect and also in terms of attaining nibbana. So then how to get rid of the anger towards the beggars? One has to consider these beggars who are asking for certain things are not actually supporting me in order to fulfill my dana parami. If they don't ask for it, I will not have an opportunity to give. So it's better that they are asking me so I can give and fulfill my dana parami. So one day I'll be able to attain the final liberation of nibbana. And also it is helpful for us to attain pleasures in the samsara. So considering this kind of a consideration is very helpful to get rid of the anger towards the ones who are asking, especially the beggars. At the same time, one has to consider, if I am very pleasant to them, they will approach me. So then I will be able to fulfill my parami. So one has to develop metta, loving kindness, and also being very dear to the beggars, and always try the best to fulfill their need. Especially this is very important for a Mahabodhisattva, because he has vowed to become a Buddha one day. In order to be a Buddha, he has to do all types of sacrifices. His life is really amazing. So therefore, he especially has to contemplate the beggars as his friends who are helping him to attain the final liberation. At the same time, he has to make sure that he will be very pleasant to them, so they will approach him more and more. So being very kind to them and also fulfilling their need, and the news of his generosity would spread in the world, and the people would more and more come to him more and more and ask for more and more. So then he'll be able to give more and more and fulfill the dana parami more and more, and finally attain the liberation. Then considering about the defilements, especially a person who has determined to attain the liberation has to give many things. Especially a bodhisattva has to give lots of things, everything that is possible to be given. Then what happens is, if the bodhisattva is attached to certain things, while he has sacrificed everything that he has, even he has given up his liberation in order to liberate other beings. So he should contemplate that it's like a person having given the cow or the ox is attached to the rope. So that doesn't make sense. If you are able to give up the cow or the ox, you should also be able to give up the rope which ties the cow. So if you are attached to the rope, that's like you have given up the biggest valuable thing, and you are attached to something which is something very minor. So attaching to physical things such as these, wealth and all these, is nothing compared to what the Bodhisattva has already sacrificed. Especially this is a contemplation for the Bodhisattvas. Even for us, ones who are wishing to be enlightened as soon as possible, we have to give up everything in our life, like attachment towards everything, even to our lives, one day when we are getting arahantship. So if you are walking on that path, attachment to certain money and all these is not something that is worthy, because our aim is for a full liberation. So when you contemplate like that, the attachment towards lobha, which obstructs the dana, would subdue. So then, for example, in order to get rid of the dosa, because donation can lead to a lot of dosa, because when you are giving certain things, those things will be enjoyed by someone else later on. Especially when the Bodhisattva is offering limbs, that can lead to a lot of anger. So he has to contemplate about a medicinal tree. People take whatever they want from the medicinal tree, leaves, branches, its outer skin, wood, roots, but the tree would not say anything. It would keep on sheltering or give the shelter to the one who is cutting it, as long as it's standing. So a person should think, especially a Bodhisattva should think, I am a person who has decided to shelter the entire world and to liberate beings as much as possible. So why should I have anger towards someone who is taking these things? Because they are helping me. Only because they are accepting, I am able to perform my donation. So while they are actually helping me to attain my liberation or someone to Nibbana, it's not worthy for me to get angry about those people. So when you contemplate like that, the dosa would subdue. Then another very important contemplation would be contemplating to get rid of the moha towards the things. Because only when one contemplates, now why do we keep things for ourselves? Why do we are not willing to give? Because we cling to things as mine. That is mainly because of the self-view. But when we consider that this life is a constitution of 5 aggregates or constitution of certain elements, and there is no I to be looked for, to whom does this stuff belongs to? To no one. So what is the purpose of holding these things as mine and mine, as mine? So it's very easy when you get rid of this wrong view of self view. It's very easy to donate. So it's another contemplation. When you practice vipassana, when you practice subdue the self view through contemplation, it's easy to donate. That's the other way to get rid of the moha that hinders our donation. Yeah, so these are the contemplations that one need to focus on. We have to change the perception about the wealth, see the dangers of attachment towards the wealth, change the perception towards the ones who are asking for wealth, ones who are begging, and also try to be someone who is pleasant to the beggars, and then contemplate wisely in order to subdue the attachment, anger, attachment to the wealth, the things, anger towards the ones who are asking for wealth, and also to get rid of the delusion that hinders our wealth, which leads for a lot of grasping. So when we have this kind of contemplation, that the person will be able to get rid of difficulties and overcome the hindrances. and finally attain the liberation. And fulfill the dana parami well, and finally attain the liberation. So I wish may all of you be able to do this contemplation Pacchaveccana well, and to make your mind suitable and ready to fulfill the dana parami. So it's a very good question. It's an important question. It's a practical question actually. In order to be counted as dana, one has to do it while the person is alive. That's the main criteria. The main criteria. So, for example, when this is applicable in our Vinaya, for instance, if I say after my death, all my robes belongs to you and give to someone, another friend monk. After I die, automatically the robes and the patta and my requisites become sangika. Because the ownership doesn't move to the other person after, because I say after my death this belongs to you. In lay life, yes, this is applicable because the ownership moves. That's how normally parents write their last will, right? After my death, this goes to this amount to my daughter, this amount to my son, and all this. So this is applicable in lay life. The Vinaya also says this is applicable to the lay people, but for the monks, no. That is the ownership. Then how about the dana? Dana is that one has to offer something one possesses to someone else. So it has to be something one possesses. So if one is offering the limbs or the body parts after he has died, that is not a certain sacrifice actually, but it is a wholesome deed. I have to say that it is a wholesome deed because wholesome chittas are happening, but to my understanding it doesn't fulfill the criteria or the elements of dana. It doesn't fulfill the elements of dana because when you make dana, you lose something. But here the body doesn't belong to you after the death, because the one has already departed. The consciousness has happened in somewhere else. It's not that the consciousness flew to somewhere else, it arose in a different place and it's no longer your own body. So in terms of dana, it's not a full-fledged dana, but it is a wholesome deed because it's a good thought. Then in Tibetan tradition, there is a custom when one dies, in order to give him more merit for the coming life, what they do is they cut the body of the dead person and they give it to the vultures. They give it to the vultures in the mountains. Vultures, the big birds, they come and eat. So do it as a dana. And the purpose is to transfer merits to the someone through a dana. I don't know how much it is. Yeah, it is a sort of a dana. The other people can offer something, the meat of the person. Even it is done. Even these days it is done. Of lay people normally. In India, in certain areas where the Tibetan Buddhism is existing. So then the question comes, if someone donates the body parts while he is alive, he or she is alive, is it yes, it's absolutely a dana, no doubt about that. Then does this amount to suicide? Suiciding is like, yeah, you can say it's a suiciding, but the attitude of suiciding is the person doesn't like his own life. He wants to end his life because of certain agony. So here what he is doing is he's donating something out of generosity. So as a result, the person dies. So it doesn't have the intention of destroying your own life. For example, if someone starves himself or herself to death, that's suicide. It's an offense for monks. If I start starving, consider that it's better I die soon. It's an offense actually. Even I don't die, it's an offense. So my attempt itself is an offense. And in Indonesia, in Sri Lankan law, it's a criminal offense if you try to suicide yourself. So in Sri Lanka, in most of the countries, it's a criminal offense. Because if you survive, then it will not be a very severe punishment. And also, if someone is close by, for example, if I commit suicide while someone is close by, it is his duty to stop. If he doesn't stop, it's an offense for him also in the law. So laws have been prevented for people, has applied for people not to die. But in some countries, suicide is allowed. Some countries, but especially in Switzerland, there is a car actually, in which someone can go and suicide himself. They say it's a peaceful death. Anyway, so different cultures have different approaches. So in Buddhism, suiciding is never appreciated, never encouraged. But donating body parts. Now, Bodhisattva donated his heart, eyes, sometimes the head. Obviously, when you donate your head and the heart, you are not going to live anymore. Hands, ears, nose, yes. Afterwards, you can still live. So these are not considered as suiciding, because the purpose is not to end the life, but to serve someone else, donating your body part. Eventually, the person will not be able to live without the body part. So that's a secondary effect. In suicide, the main aim is to end the life. So donating limbs or body parts that would eventually kill the person, make your own self to die, kill yourself, is not considered as suiciding. So the simple answer is there's no guarantee. If there's a way to guarantee that, then it would be very nice. But unfortunately, there is no guarantee. That's why we say take the best out of this opportunity. Because when the Buddha's teachings are not alive or not present in the world, it's very difficult for someone to follow the path and understand the path by himself or herself. In Bodhisattva's case, it's applicable to anyone. It's not confined to a Bodhisattva or anyone, because what has happened is, now we should apply why a Bodhisattva is capable of walking this path by himself even when the Buddhas are not there. That's because of immense practice that he has done. So he has completely changed his mindset, the way of his thinking, because the mind stream continues. Though it's a new mind arising, but the connection is still there. The habits, the karmas, all will carry into the new mind stream. So therefore the effects are there. Even though sometimes he may go astray, he may go into a different wrong path, he may do evil deeds, but it's very easy, very quickly he can come back to the path. That's because of his past merits and the paramis that he has fulfilled. So yes, after he became destined to be a bodhisattva, there's a huge guarantee. Actually, he become destined only when he is certain to walk on the path regardless of anything. That's why the Buddha says he is sure to be enlightened. It's not that he become destined after Buddha has said this, another Buddha has said this. Buddha recognizes at a certain point, because of his past paramis, and when he's reached to a certain juncture, from here onwards, it's impossible that this person would go astray and would not attain the Buddhahood. He's sure to attain the Buddhahood, because he has already fulfilled the energy to reach that level. Sometimes we say after you have reached to a certain peak point, it cannot be stopped anymore. For example, if something has reached to the gravity's area of the earth, you cannot stop it, it will fall into the earth. You cannot prevent it. So there are points of no return. If you reach that area, you cannot come back. So likewise, Bodhisattva had reached that no return point, then that's why he became destined. Is another thing to consider. Then afterwards, sure, whatever happens, he will somehow find the path. It's not happening out as a miracle, because he has fulfilled the paramis that he will be able to find the way by himself, regardless, even there are no Buddhas. That's the point here. So now, why a Bodhisattva is capable of walking on the path by himself? Because of his immense practice. So if we want to achieve a similar goal, what we are supposed to do is practice as much as possible. When you get the opportunity, do the practice as much as possible. There's a very high possibility that you will be following a correct path even in a era where there's no Buddha. But there's no guarantee here. There's no guarantee. Things could change. There is a very pity story about someone when the Bodhisattva became destined. This is found in Apadana Pali. When the Bodhisattva became destined as Sumedha to become a Gautama Buddha one day, he had a friend. Bodhisattva became an ascetic. This friend went under Buddha Dipankara's dispensation and he became a monk. Then, unfortunately, for some reason, he disrobed. Then, even more unfortunately, he ended up killing his mother. Then what happened? He went to the hell and he was wandering in the samsara, because all of us will wander in samsara, whether we practice or not, that's natural. Whether we meditate or not, the consciousness will keep on happening, right? So, then what happened? When the Bodhisattva became Buddha, he met him. That was the first encounter of this being with the Bodhisattva after the life of Sumedha. For the 4 asankheyas and 100,000 eons, this man could not meet Bodhisattva throughout this entire period. He missed this great being. He would have born in other dispensations, maybe. I don't know how somehow he has fulfilled his param. In the end, he became Arahant. He became an Arahant. But he delayed his entire path. Now, see now, a person needs to fulfill his paramis for asankheyas and 100,000 eons to be a Samma Sambuddha. This person who has already entered the path, he became a monk and he wanted to attain liberation. He wanted to become an Arahant. He started his journey for asankheyas and 100,000 years and he accomplished it after that. And that was the period the Bodhisattva fulfilled his paramis and became a Buddha. So, sometimes we may wander in samsara more than we think, anticipate, and more than what is required for us to attain. If you are negligence, this is no guarantee. Even though we have practiced, even though we have given dana, there's no guarantee. That's the bitter truth. This is not to threaten or frighten you, but that's the truth that we have to be aware of. So what is the only way out? To practice as much as, even you do a fault, try to find the remedies. Even a person who has killed his parents still could practice. He will not be able to get a good life next words, but he can study Dhamma, he can give dana, he can practice his sila, and accumulate a strong strength that whenever he comes to the human realm, he'll have this good potency. So that's the only way. And when you apply the nature of bhavanga chitta, patisandhi chitta with the karma, the story is terrifying. The story is terrifying because just to give you a small hint on this, we are born due to a certain karma, and that karma is producing all the bhavanga chittas, or the main chittas in the life throughout the life. And when the karma's energy finishes, the person dies, because one life is a product of one karma. It doesn't mean that everything is determined in that life by that karma, but the main energy of the life is because of the karma. And patisandhi, the first consciousness and the subsequent consciousnesses, while the life continuum, we call it the bhavanga chittas, are produced by the same karma. And all the other consciousnesses like viti chittas, consciousness by which we act are outcomes of this bhavanga. It's like the outcomes. So bhavanga chitta dominates the entire life. If the bhavanga is weak, if bhavanga has no roots, if he is too rooted, the being would never be able to attain Maggaphala and so forth. So now imagine a scenario. I'll take myself into this example. I'm preaching this Dhamma. Sometimes I do, not to boast, but I do preach some deep Dhamma. So if I am born with a too-rooted karma next life, as a human being, I myself would look into these YouTubes, the talks that I have given, and I would say, I cannot understand these talks. What is he talking about? It is possible. So this shows, right? This shows that because it depends on the karma that we are born with. Because if you are born with 3-rooted karma, yes, then the potency would come up and the person would be able to exhibit his qualities and he'll be able to achieve certain things because it's a full karma with full potency. But if I'm born with a 2-rooted karma, which doesn't contain wisdom in the patisandhi chitta or bhavanga chitta, I'll never be able to achieve vipassana in that life. So it shows that how dangerous this life samsara is. For example, if I became an animal, obviously I'll not have any idea what this monk has taught. I'll just look at it like, if I imagine, I would consider it would not happen if I became a dog, for example, in samsara, and look at my own talk and I would have no idea, no clue what's going on. So that's the danger of samsara. So it shows that there's no guarantee. That's the bitter truth. So only way out is to accumulate you increase the possibilities of good lives. You increase the possibilities of choosing a better path. You increase the possibility of being an intellectually highly advanced being, wise person, virtuous person. It's only by accumulating good, strong karmas as much as possible. When your karma lot is too much, it's a lot, and those karmas are of high God quality, what happens? The possibility of getting higher, greater births are high. So that would be the only way, according to my understanding. Other than saying that you have a limitation in dana, I would say, yes, you can have a limitation in dana. Because, unless you are a bodhisattva, for example. So, it's not that, I would not say there is a limitation in everyone's dana. If one who wants to become a savaka, if he donates his blood, which is not necessary, that will be helpful because blood is a body part. It's necessary to be given by Pacceka, ones who aspire to be Pacceka Buddhas and Samma Sambuddhas. And savakas are not necessary to give such donations. But if you give and wish for your savakahood, okay, obviously it's very helpful. So rather than saying, it's like when you say limitation, it says you cannot cross it. You can limit your dana, but there's no limitation in doing good. There's no limitation in doing good. So much you do, more we will praise. More you do, more we will praise, and even the Buddha would praise that. But as the ones who are aspiring to be a savaka and attain liberation soon under the Buddha, a dispensation of a Buddha, yes, you can have your limitations, and they don't need to give dana as much as well. So it is said by some Theras that donating the ones who deserve donations, especially the monks or the virtuous ones, would be enough. Enough means not to say they're not to. No, it's not to say they're not to give to beggars. Obviously not. You can fulfill your paramis by choosing the ones who deserve donation and keep on giving. It's always recommended to give to the needy and the poor. There's no doubt about that. More you give, it's more faster, more easier that you will reach. So it's not necessary to donate body parts unless you want to attain these, understand these Four Noble Truths by yourself. That is, ones who need to understand the Four Noble Truths by yourself has to donate body parts. And ones who need to understand the Four Noble Truths by themselves and to teach others, they have to donate the body parts and also donate their entire life. Donating entire life is twofold. Donating your entire body to someone, like what Bodhisattva did in the Sasa Jataka as food or some other reason, or becoming a slave of someone else. It's another Paramatta Parami. When you become a slave, your entire body and life is owned by the master, and they can take work. They can make you to work as they want, and you have to keep on striving for the welfare of the master, and you don't own any sort of independency about your own life. So becoming a slave is one of the worst things that can happen to a person. But bodhisattvas in many uncountable time of lives have become a slave of others willingly. So yes, so there is no limitation, but for Savakas it's not necessary to donate body parts and donate other things, and it's also not necessary for a Savaka to donate the wives, children and all this, right? So normal donations would suffice their liberation. That's why the difference is there. The difference between a Buddha and a Savaka is so great because of the amount that he is fulfilling. And one more thing, now Bodhisattva's lives, when we read the Jataka, seems like most of them had happy endings. But if you look into his life, you go through think about them with insight. For example, he has given his eyes in many lives. After donating your eyes, you can do anything, right? Your life is gone. You cannot study, you cannot live with yourself, even you need the help. There are occasions the wives would have left, and there are occasions that people would have said, because it's not like you lost your eyes out of an accident, because you are doing it by yourself, willingly. And in an era where there is no Buddha, and none of the people would believe that it is possible to become a Buddha in future, because there is no evidence, no Dhamma. Why do they believe? When the Bodhisattva is given the eyes, they would ask, why are you doing this? Because he would say, I want to be the person who understands everything one day. What are you talking? Is it possible by giving eyes? When are you going to achieve that? Has anyone ever done that? Because we don't have the literature that did. We don't have the Buddha's teachings those days. So how could you convince someone else? Bodhisattva is doing it by himself, and most of them would not believe. And he should have the confidence. And then afterwards, if he has donated his arms, then he's an armless person, legless person, eyeless person. So sometimes he ends up as a slave. So most of his lives in this regard, a considerable amount of his life, I would say, ended up as in conventional terms, as a loser, as no one. He was not glorious, because how could a person who has no eyes would do anything? After that, the entire life is gone. So it seems like he was like throwing his lives, like we do when we play cards. We just throw cards to get some reward. So he was just throwing his entire body parts, lives, like nothing. And one life was nothing for him. So if he donated his eyes at the age of 20, so for another 60, 70 years he has to live without eyes. And he would not commit suicide because of that. So it's a terrible journey, I would call. It's a terrifying journey. That's why most of the people would never, not even think of following this journey. So another thing, that Bodhisattva's donation doesn't have limitations, but it is a very daunting journey, but the outcome is so remarkable that we all are still benefiting because of his endeavors. Yes. Okay, we shall conclude our talk, and may all of you be able to attain liberation with the merits that is gained through this, listen to this talk, and may all of you who participated, listened, will be able to fulfill your paramis and attain Nibbana as soon as possible. Ettavata ca amhehi sambhatam punya sampadang sabbe devanumodantu sabbe bhutanumodantu sabbe sattanumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātayo idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātayo idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātayo idam me punyang asavakkayāvahang hotu idam me punyang nibbānassa paccayo hotu mama punya bhagang sabba sattānam bhājemi te sabbe me samang punya bhagang labantu sadhu 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 buddha sāsanam cirantittatu buddha sāsanam cirantittatu buddha sāsanam cirantittatu sadhu sadhu sadhu.